Welcome to Unit 2, Lecture 1. This is Section 5.1, and we're going to talk about how populations grow. So the learning objectives for this unit are: explain the way ecologists study populations, identify the factors that affect population growth, explain what happens during exponential growth, and then explain what happens during logistic growth. There are four categories or four classifications we can use to describe populations. 1, we've got their geographic range. 2, density and distribution. 3, growth rate. And 4, age structure. Now, age structure generally plays a lot more role in human populations, but we can also talk about it with other populations as well, especially ones that tend to reproduce and live longer. Geographic range is the area that's inhabited by a population. So you can see here that this whole area that's green is the geographic range. Now we can talk about the geographic range, the continuous range, like here, or if this happens to be an animal that may be found, or a plant, or a species that may be found in more than one area on the world, okay, we can talk about its entire global range depending on what we're discussing. That's something that's happening with mosquitoes right now because of global climate change. Because temperatures are rising, the mosquito range is actually growing globally. Even though there may be an ocean between us and the mosquitoes that are in Africa, okay, there's evidence to suggest that the range of the mosquito is growing overall. Another way we can discuss population and some of the characteristics associated with population is density and distribution. So you probably remember that density just means how much of something is in an area, and then distribution is how much of something is spread out along the entire area that you're talking about. So when it comes to populations, we generally find three different patterns. We find the uniform pattern, which these penguins, it's not really clear in this picture, but you can see they're pretty uniformly spread out. There seems to be about the same amount of space between them, and so on and so forth. Okay, then we have the clumped, which you can see here with this school of fish, because they're all tightly packed, and this school of fish is going to be, there might be another school of fish over somewhere else in the ocean, and another school of fish. So that's a lot of school of fish. And then we have random. So if you look at these trees up here, you see a couple over here, you see a couple trees over here, and then you see all this space in between them, but then you got these guys where they're like that. So that is a random distribution. And so it basically just means there's no pattern to it whatsoever. When scientists are actually studying populations, it's really important to know what kind of density and distribution they have, because if we're trying to count up something and we're trying to count it like it's a uniform population, but it's really a clumped population, that can really skew our numbers if we're not paying attention. Growth rate. Third way to measure, or third characteristic of a population. There are growth rates can be, or are a number, ranging from less than 1 to greater than 1. And depending on exactly how much they're growing, it can be a wide range. So if a growth rate equals 1, that means the population size is remaining unchanged. Okay, it means it's not growing, it's not shrinking, the number is basically staying the same over a period of time. If a growth rate is greater than 1, okay, that means our population is actually growing. All right, it means it's actually adding more people or more individuals than it is taking them away. And then if we have a growth rate of less than 1, usually that means that a population is decreasing. So that means people are, or individuals, I keep saying people, individuals organisms in the population are actually leaving, or being taken out of the population. There are 4 main ways that things can be or individuals can be added or taken away from a population. So we have births here and immigration. So births is just individuals being born. Immigration is individuals coming into the population. These are both going to raise the population size. Okay? All right. And then we have ways that populations could decrease. We have emigration, which is individuals leaving the population. E for exit. Okay. And then we have deaths, individuals dying. And if they're not being replaced by births, these things are going, okay, to end up resulting in the population decreasing. So if births and or immigration are greater than emigration and deaths, that means the population is going to go up. Okay. If emigration and deaths are greater than births and immigration, that means the population is going to go down. Okay. So depending on what side we're on, that'll end up causing a population to grow or not. Now, if these guys are equal, of course, that means that the population is going to remain the same. Exponential growth. You may have seen a graph like this in math class. Exponential growth is just something like this where you end up seeing a huge growth in the population. So under ideal conditions, ideal means perfect, nothing wrong with it, and with unlimited resources, a population will grow exponentially. Now a resource, remember, is just food. Getting better. Food, okay, mates, shelter, water, all of that kind of stuff, whatever they may need. So unlimited resources mean that there's plenty of them. So there's no control there. They've got everything they need to grow, to survive, and reproduce. Okay, and what happens is this ends up creating this J-shaped curve. So you can see right around, this is time in hours because we're talking about bacterial population, in that 4 to 5 hour range, you can actually see how the curve is just starting to skyrocket. That's exponential growth. The other side of that is called logistic growth. So logistic growth is when a population grows, okay, it slows down, and then ultimately stops. So it's not really growing. You'll see a little bit of this wobble here. All right, you can see that wobble. Okay. But what happens is now we're actually starting to level off. So you can see right around here, we level off. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about that wobble when we get in class with some of the things that are going on. But this is what's called logistic growth. So you see that we've had, it looks more like an S. Okay. It's got more of that S curve to it. And we end up getting, when we talk about populations, we can break it down into phases. So phase 1 is exponential growth. Phase 2 is where it's starting to level off. And phase 3 is when it's actually hit carrying capacity, which I'm about to talk about. So carrying capacity. And you can see that line that I drew, okay, right there is called the carrying capacity. The carrying capacity is just exactly what it sounds like. It's the maximum number of individuals that an environment can support. Okay, you have seen this. It's on elevators. Anytime you go into an elevator, there's always a sign about how much weight the elevator can support or how many people can fit in the elevator. We even have it in our own cafeterias, and it says in the cafeteria, it says in the cafeteria, if people are standing, if there this many people can be in there. If they're seated at tables, this many people can be in there. That's carrying capacity. It's just how many seats or how many people can be in that room, in that environment. That's what a carrying capacity is. So most natural populations do ultimately have a carrying capacity caused by generally resource availability or by predators. Okay, things that are going to eat them. All right, a lot of those carrying capacities are set by those two things. All right, so it's a short one. Okay, I will see you in class. Have a great day.